guys, this is Anthony here. Welcome back. It's been some time since we last had a video, and I know that, as you may recall in the last video, I had mentioned that we are going to be doing a regular expression video. The intention of this regular expression video is to get you to learn the very basics of how regex works in general, and then we're going to take that and we're going to apply it to the device inventory project that I plan on creating a couple of videos for in the future. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a regex prototype.py here. I'm going to throw this into the network automation mini course folder from GitHub that I've been using, and you can see the code on there. So RE is the regex default regex module in Python. It is a built-in, so you don't have to do a pip install. You will not need to do a pip install. If I go to pip list and then include RE, there is no RE here because it is built in. Okay, I'm gonna upgrade pip real quick. And while it's doing this thing, I want to go into the documentation to kind of get you guys familiar with exactly how this works. All right. So the first thing that you want to know is you want to know the characters that reside within regex. Okay. A few of the most common ones that you're going to see at the top here, you have the dot. The dot matches everything except the new line. That's a very common character you're going to see. The caret matches the start of a new string, and then the $sign matches the end of a string, or just before new line. The asterisk matches 0 or more repetitions. The plus sign matches 1 or more. The question sign matches 0 or 1 to the preceding regex. Okay. Before I go too far, though, all right, I am going to basically go through examples of each of these so you know exactly what the heck I'm talking about. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to type my regex equals re.match. Okay, and then we have our pattern. It's going to go here. Okay, and then we're going to have the string that we throw in there. Okay, and the string is just going to be my string. Okay, so the reason you put R here, R just basically signifies that this is a regex pattern, okay, for our RE match. The next thing we want to do is we're going to start using these. Okay, so a dot is a single character that's not a part of a new line. So if we were just to say this, and then we say print my regex, we're going to get none because there's nothing here. There's more than one character here, right? So if I run it, it's going to say there is a match, but it's not going to match the whole string. It's just going to match the first character. Okay. If I add an asterisk, it's going to match the whole thing because we are basically saying one of any character except a new line, and that is 0 or more times. That can happen 0 more times. So it's going to match the whole thing and matched my string. Okay. And then if we say the plus sign, we're going to get the exact same result. It's going to say my string because 1 or more. And then the question mark is only going to give us the M. Okay? As you can see, it's either 0 or 1. You're probably wondering, how do these become useful? Well, think of it this way. Okay? Sometimes maybe in text that you're trying to parse from somewhere, maybe the new line was removed for some reason, then that may come in handy. Or maybe it's more difficult to determine certain certain pieces of data within a line, right? Maybe there is some specific value that's not always there. In that case, you would want an asterisk. Or if it's a single value field, depending on how you use the question mark, then you could do that as well. Okay, so that's a pretty straightforward example. Now, if I did this, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what is that, 7? Okay, so if I run this, it's going to match, is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Oh, that's 8. Okay, yeah, if I match 8, then there you go. Pretty straightforward. All right, and then if I just say my string, it's going to obviously match that as well. Okay, nothing special there. Now let's go back here and let's look at this match right here. Okay, so let's say that this is at the end of the line. Okay, did we find a match? Yes, we did. Okay, now let's say that this goes to the start of the line. Okay, let's just say this. Maybe this will work. Okay, it's just going to match everything. My string is awesome. Now, what if I said my string at the end of a line, run that, nothing? Makes sense, right? Hopefully. Okay, so that should be pretty straightforward. As you can see, that kind of is where, you know, if you're trying to expect something at the end of the line, then that's where this character can become useful, come in, right? So, the next thing is the squiggly brackets here, okay? These can come in handy quite a bit as well, depending on what you're trying to do, okay? So this is basically saying match exactly this number of instances, okay? So let's say, for example, let's delete my string again. Let's delete this, okay? Let's say that we have a period again, which is our match anything but new line. And then in the squiggly brackets, we're going to say match this preceding character up to 4 times. Or, sorry, exactly 4 times. Okay? My ST. Now, if it's, let's say it's 9 characters. Obviously, this is not 9, so we're not going to get anything because it's shorter than 9 characters. It has to be exactly 9. Okay? Another thing you could do is you could say match this by between low range number and high range number. So let's say 1 to 5. Okay, so what it's going to do, it's going to match 5. All right, we'll say 3 instead, between 3 and 5. Okay, it'll match the highest here. But if I were to delete all this, it would match my S, it would match my ST, it would match my STR. And then if you were to just cut this down to 2 characters, it would not match it. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. The next thing, let's see here. So, escaping special characters is very important as well. Okay? And if you know enough Python, you should already know the importance of an escape character, I would hope. But if you have, for example, if you want to literally put one of these squiggly brackets as interpreted as a literal in here, you could do this to where it's interpreted literally rather than as a regex pattern. Okay, or if you want to put in a literal asterisk, you can do that, or a literal plus sign, or a literal question mark, whatever it is. Okay, so that's you know, that should be pretty straightforward. This one can be useful as well. Basically, what this one does is it says match, let's say A to Z lowercase, A to Z uppercase, and just that. Okay, just that. But then let's say I want to match exactly 8 let's say 7 characters. Okay, let's run that, and we have my string. Okay, so let's say that I wasn't allowed. Let's say that I wasn't allowed to have Y in the string. Okay, so let's say A to X, and then also Z. Okay, you can do this. Basically, you can put everything in there. You can say ABC, D, E, F, G. You could say every single letter within here through Z, but it's more intuitive to use the range. As well as if you were to do numbers, you just say 0 through 9, or you could say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But you don't want to do that because we're not looking for numbers here. Okay. Then I run this, and we have none. Why? Because I have a Y string here, or excuse me, I have a Y character in the string. So it's not going to, it's going to give me none. Okay. So here's our match again. Let's delete this and go back to the remainder of these. All right, so I don't see this one used too often. Honestly, not so much. I wouldn't use that one. I don't. There's other ways. There's other ways to do that, but you know you can use it. It's just a logical OR, in essence. That's really all it is. Let's see, what else do we have here. There's so let's get down to some of the character patterns. Okay, so these are important. These are very important to use as well. These are some very common character patterns. Okay, we don't want to get too advanced here. If you want to really get to know this intimately, you're going to have to run a lot of trial and error. But in essence, there's going to be a very specific subset of these that you use most of the time, especially when it comes to networking, and you just stick with those. All right, so this is the first one. D, lowercase d. Okay, this matches a Unicode decimal digit, so it matches a number. Okay, this one matches anything but the decimal digit, so it's basically like saying this. Oh, actually, that's one other thing I forgot to mention as well. That's another pattern you want to know to learn. All right, so let's say that you have an expression here that says, I want all characters except for A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Actually, let's exclude that for now. Any number of times. Okay, so basically, it can be any character except for those characters. Run that, I get a match. Okay, now if I add the G, it's going to say none, or excuse me, it's going to match the everything but the G, right? Because it's being interpreted individually. Now, if I were to specify exactly how many characters, okay, then it would say none. Okay. All right. So then if we were to do this, same thing, same result. It's going to get a match with 7, excluding the G, right? So just remember that. That also applies with numbers. So if you have numbers in there, and let's say you have my string 5, right? It's going to exclude that string. And I should actually also put this in here. All right, there you go. It's basically excluding that 5 completely. All right. So keep this in mind. This little caret, when it's outside of these brackets, it's used and interpreted as, basically something at the beginning of the line, whereas in the brackets, it's a negator for these specific characters. All right. So that's the significance of that. There's a couple other things here. The lowercase w matches Unicode word characters. The lowercase s matches white space characters. Okay, a tab, a new line, carriage return, things like that. Okay, and then the upper S matches anything that's not a white space character. Okay, not a white space character. So what I'm going to do now that you've seen some of these, and actually I'm going to run the lowercase s so you can see that for what it is. Oops. What's going to happen here is we are going to get none because this is not a white space character. It is set to none. Okay. All right. So go back. Have none. And remember, lowercase s is all white space characters. Uppercase S is our non-white space characters. Okay. Throw this in here. It's going to match it. Okay. Still match it. If it is a word, it'll match my string. It'll match my string still with the number defined as a string rather than an integer. And then if we were to put a tab here, let's put a tab, none, and lowercase s, there is our tab. Okay, that's pretty much all that goodness. Okay, so Now what I want to do, I want to match an IP address. Okay? So the question is, how would we use this to define an IP address? It's super simple. Okay, this is what an IP address looks like. D escape, lower D escape character, plus sign, escape period, because as you recall, period is interpreted as a character other than a new line, so therefore we want to interpret it as a literal, and then we do that again and again and again. Okay? Now, one thing that you could actually alter on this is you could probably set this number to any, you could say something like, because there can only be up to 3 integers in each of the octets, you could say anywhere between 1 and 3. Okay? Nothing more than that. If that makes sense. Oops. Yeah, I don't want to do that. And then we come over here, and actually remove that, and remove this. All right, and remove this. So you want to, whenever you specify these regex, you want to be as explicit as possible. Otherwise, you're probably going to get errors that you don't want to. All right. So if I say 192.168.1.1, okay. There you go. There you go. Match. And if I put this as, let's say, 3 digits for each of these, it's still going to give us our match. And then if I put a 4th one, it's going to exclude that 4th piece. Okay. So that is that. That is that. Unfortunately, the thing about this, as you can see, is even if there's an error in the number, it's not going to tell us that it's not going to validate it in this particular case. It's just going to cut off the last digit, which is not necessarily good, because if it needs to be an exact match, then that can become problematic. So yeah, I think you would probably have to actually alter this right here, if you expect maybe there to be an error, and then you actually apply some validation into that. Now, I think there are actually some regex that can do that, but in this case, like I said, I just want to keep this simple. I don't want you to get overly intimidated by this, because regex is very it's very fun, but it can get very complicated in some places. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to use a function called compile. So match actually will only match if this particular setup is close to exact, because it's going to basically cut off. So basically match will only look for the first match that it identifies. So if we said, if we add another number over here, say 2, okay, it's still only going to match this. What we can do is if we say find all, it will give us every single one of them with this particular definition. Okay, which is super nice. Super nice. Match is really mainly just for identifying a single one, though. All right, and that's really all we're intending to do with most of this. Now, one other thing that you can do is you can actually do something called a compile. All right. So I'll just say my compile equals re.compile. And then we're going to take this, we're going to throw this in here. And then what we're going to do is, instead of say rematch, we're going to say myCompile.match. and you get the exact same result. So the nice thing about that is, think of it like a function. You're just taking a specific expression and it can be reapplied multiple times. So that's really nice when it comes to the compile method, right? Let's see, what else should we go through here? There's some other options, like you can do multi-line regex, search is nice, splitting the words. So basically, if you have a regex pattern, but maybe you want to split how these are broken out, that can become useful. There's another one called .sub. If you find a specific regex pattern, then you can substitute it for a specific expression pattern, and that is a pretty good chunk of the regex stuff. Oh yeah, and actually, here's another one. Groups is very, very useful when you are trying to find specific patterns within a set of text, and then you take that and you structure it to your liking. So with group, basically what we're doing is we are putting these parentheses around each of the expressions. We're going to group specific pieces. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm trying to pick out the individual numbers. Okay, you're probably wondering, why do I want to do that? So this goes back to the whole thing about basically validating that there's only 3 numbers there. Okay? Now, this is not usually how you're going to validate, but this is a way to do it. So I'm just going to put this as, basically 1 or more, because otherwise it's not going to be called as invalid. Okay? We're going to say for I in range, we're going to say 1 to 5. Okay? Because we have 4 here, which means we need to do n plus 1, so 1 to 5. Okay, so it goes through from 1 to 4. All right, and then we say if length of my regex dot group I is greater than 3, print f string my regex dot group I is invalid. Okay, and then we are going to run that, and guess what? 1122 is invalid. Okay, there you go. Simple as that. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this group that I speak of, and I'm going to start picking things out of a configuration. Okay, so how shall I do that? What config will I use? Right, so firstly what we're going to do is we're going to open a file. I'm not sure which file yet. I think we'll do this one, actually. So what I'm going to do is, let's say that I want, basically from this, I want every port, I want every description, and I want every VLAN assigned to a switch port. Okay? As you recall, we can't do this with match because there's multiple instances here. What we can do is we could do a find all operation. Okay? So we say find all here. We're not going to get there yet, but we firstly need to compile our regex. Okay? So the way we're going to do that is we need to look at this. This is our model. Okay? We're going to use this as our model. So what we're going to do here, so we're going to say interface, because we know it always starts with interface. And then we know here, this is the interface. Okay. We don't know necessarily whether it's gigabit Ethernet, okay, or it's Ethernet, or it's fast Ethernet, or it's 10 gigabit Ethernet. There could be a lot of nuance in that, okay? So, the way that we work around that is we are going to have something that says Ethernet, okay? And in the beginning here, we're just going to throw in a wildcard. Actually, we'll use the S wildcard, okay? And then we have a digit, and then we have a backslash, and then we have another digit, okay? And remember, technically, this could actually be 1 or 2, and technically, this could be 1 to 2 as well, right? So it could be like gigabit Ethernet 10-28 or something, all right? And then after that, we have a new line. Okay, we don't want the new line in the regular. We don't want the new line in the group, all right? And then we have a space, single space. All right, we'll just use a dot for this. Description, dot, and then whatever our description is. And as we know, the description goes to the end of the line. And then we have a new line here. Okay, then we have another space. And then we have switchport mode access. And actually, really what we could do here is we could just throw this as a wildcard, because we already know in this case that switchport mode access is going to be the line before our access VLAN. Now, in the case of basically knowing, you know, let's say maybe some of the other ports have like some additional commands, we would have to alter the regex to be a little more intricate, but in this case, let's not worry about that at this moment. Then we have a new line, then we have our space, then we say switch port, access, VLAN, and here's our next group, okay? And it's just gonna be a digit of, let's say, 1 to 4 long, because it could be up to 4090 in the 4090 range, all right? And that is our regex. That is the whole regex. Okay. So then after we do that, we're going to open the file. We're going to open our router B1 here. So we go to, what is this under? Rendered templates, iOS 3925, router b1.txt. Okay. Then we're going to do a find all. And we actually need to just say f.read here, okay? And then we're going to pass in our text config, okay? And then we're going to say for result in my regex, print my regex group. How many groups do we have here? 1, 2, we have 3 groups. Okay, so we're gonna say 1 and 2, 3. Okay. And actually, I think maybe we should turn this into an F string. All right, we're going to say result for interface. Here's our interface, and we have this. Okay, we have a new line, and then we say description. We say VLAN, okay, and now we run it, and I have it, oh, I have an error because of this little guy here. Oh, it's because I put it under shared. That's why I need to add that there. Oh, right. Yeah, so I forgot. Find all actually does not return this as a group. You actually have to define the specific position in the tuple. Okay. So what I need to do instead is, instead of saying .group, all I'm saying is I'm calling it as if it were a position in a list. Okay. There we go. Here we go. This looks kind of sloppy though. What's going on here? Let's see, result for interface. Oh, I know why. Should say result. I don't know why I didn't catch that. Much better. Okay. So, as you can see, we have our information, and you're probably wondering, what could we do with that? Well, in this case, you're not really going to be doing much with it. But let's say you needed some structured data. Let's say that, again, this comes back to the device inventory. Let's say that you needed this data for something, to provide a report of some kind. Or maybe let's say you wanted to feed this into a report of some kind that you could use to your advantage. I think a really good, useful tool you could create with regex. This is an idea. $1 billion idea. Well, maybe not $1 million, but this could be very useful for those who have a lot of firewall or ACL configs. Let's say you do a show ACL for all your ACLs, okay? And let's say you want to identify entries in the ACL that are not taking any hits. Maybe it's an old configuration, maybe it's an old entry, okay? In that case, you could take that, send a report, and then if you wanted to, and this would probably be, probably would require some change control, you could remove those if they had no hits within, let's say the last 6 months or something like that. And then you would create a report basically saying this was removed, and then everything is audited end to end. Everything from every single device. It'd be super awesome, actually. In fact, now that I got that idea in my head, I may write something similar. Although it may already be written, maybe already be out there. Okay. There's one other thing that I want to mention, okay, which is flags. Okay. So, with the flags, there's a flag here. Let's say you don't care about upper or lower case. You can actually pass an option, a flag, into your regex to say, I don't care if it's upper or lower case. And then what you do is right here, after you specify the expression and the string, or basically configure whatever it is that you pass into here, you pass in a flag saying this should be ignore case. All right. So hopefully that makes enough sense. Hopefully that covered the majority of the basics of RE for you. Really, the intention of this lesson was to get you familiarized with all the different special characters that you need to be familiar with regex, because moving forward in the next video, we're not going to use RE for the inventory. There's a reason for that. I'm not going to tell you yet of why, but let's just say it's pretty effective of a library for what we're going to be using. So get ready for that. Get ready for the device inventory. What I want you to do, okay, firstly, if you like this, like the video and share it. Secondly, if there's a project that you want me to create, maybe there's something that, or maybe there's something that you don't know how to do within Python that you want to do for network automation. You don't know how to go about it. You know, if you have an idea about a project or about a workflow that you'd like to implement, shoot a comment in the YouTube video channel, okay, or in this video's entry down below, or hit me up on Twitter, or hit me up via email if you have my newsletter. Okay, I want you to tell me, because this is the thing, all right? There's a lot of projects, a lot of different possibilities for network automation out there. And the more contribution, more collaboration, the greater the results. Let's be honest here. I'm one guy, you're one person. Put the heads together, you get a greater output. All right? Thanks, guys.